Hey guys, it's Chloe. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know that Toyota has been releasing a lot of new trucks and SUVs. Two of the big ones being the one I'm standing next to right now, the 2025 4Runner, and also the 2024 Toyota Tacoma. Now, there have been some big changes from the previous generation of these vehicles to the new ones, some of them being the completely new body style, others being new engine configuration. But one other big thing that I want to talk about today, specifically in this video, is the changes to the interior of both of these vehicles. So let's do a deep dive and check both out. I should mention that for both the 4Runner and Tacoma we're looking at today, here at Overland Expo, they've got the Trailhunter trims, which are like kind of the top of the line trims for the 4Runner and the Tacoma. It's a very overlanding inspired trim, as you'll kind of see throughout this video. But one thing I really like about the 4Runner is it comes in this new color, Everest. It's like this shimmery green with hints of blue undertones in it. I think it's a really good looking color on this Trailhunter.
So, if you were blindfolded, would you be able to tell if you were in a new 4Runner or new Tacoma?
Honestly, like I don't have too much seat time in like either of these vehicles, but I will say like from just sitting in the driver's seat, both look extremely similar on the interior. Like it's hard to find any visual cues or visual differences that I'm in a 4Runner versus a Tacoma. I mean, the hood shape is pretty similar. Maybe they have the same hoods. I think headroom's pretty comparable. Space is pretty comparable in both. You know, we've got a mid-size SUV and a mid-size truck. And that kind of brings me into my next point. Like from the previous Gen 4Runners or Tacomas, I feel like the amount of space you get on the inside is pretty comparable to before. But one thing I do appreciate in these newer generation vehicles, both of them in fact, is the better seating. And by that, I mean two things. One thing is the seating angle. So you can see that the front of the seat is raised a little bit above the ground. I don't have a lot of seat time in a 5th Gen 4Runner per se, but in my old Tacoma, I know that I added these seat jackers to improve the front angle because even though I don't have very, very long legs, I would find that I would just get a lot of fatigue after long drives. And after putting those seat jackers in and raising the seat, that would all go away. So I see that they've kind of taken inspiration from that and added that in these newer generation vehicles.
I do want to note that the seating angle of the 4Runner does look less aggressive than the Tacomas, but both feel similar and are comfortable.
Also, the bolstering in these new seats is very much improved for when you're getting, you know, rocked around when you're off-roading and stuff. And not to mention heated and cooled seats, which I can certainly appreciate because, you know, I live in the desert. Oh, also power seats on both the driver and the passenger side. I know that sounds like something that you'd think is really, really standard, but we just looked at a 2024 Land Cruiser and only the driver's side had power seats. I guess you have to step up in the premium package to get that. But yeah, present in both the 4Runner Trailhunter and also the Tacoma Trailhunter, so that's good. All of the buttons, switches, controls for the climate control, some of the off-road features like one of my favorites, the stabilizer bar disconnect, also the rear locker, camera view, and a couple different drive modes and transfer case select. This to me is indistinguishable from how the Tacoma is set up. Same with this panel over here, but something here, what I wanted to show you is I'm really excited about these auxiliary switches. This is so cool. If you have ever wired anything up in the previous gen Tacoma or 4Runner, you kind of have to go custom. Finally, there's some placeholders for you to wire up various accessories, whether that be a light bar, winch, ditch lights, air compressors, and more. Although I should mention in a Trailhunter, you wouldn't need to wire up an air compressor because there is one available in both the Tacoma and 4Runner in the back, and we'll look at that in a little bit.
Something else I just caught, actually while editing, was the fact that this 4Runner has memory seat controls. And I don't think they're in the Tacoma because looking at the door, those controls aren't there. Maybe they're somewhere else, but I couldn't find them. Regardless, it looks like that's definitely an option in the 4Runner, just maybe not the Tacoma.
All right, now sitting in the Tacoma, yeah, very few things differ in this compared to the 4Runner. Although I noticed one thing, I think this is a pretty big thing actually, is yes, there's no grab handle on both the A-pillar of the 4Runner and Tacoma, but there's no grab handle up here on the Tacoma, but the 4Runner has it. So kind of interesting. Other than that, just sitting in here as a driver, just the overall experience is, it's pretty much the same. It's hard to distinguish the two. So back here is where things really start to differ between the two. And I mean, that's obviously an artifact of, you know, comparing a truck versus an SUV, but I do want to point out some comparable differences between the two. All right, so the first one I want to look at, because I know you guys are curious, is legroom in the rear. So I think I actually have to drop in the front and move the seat all the way back. That's the only fair test. All right, and it's tight back here. I mean, obviously the seat's kind of all the way backwards, but I mean, I'm not too tall, but I personally still have quite a bit of room. And I do appreciate that in the 4Runner, the seats recline pretty far back, pretty cool. All right, we're gonna test the second row legroom space in the Tacoma now. Now they unfortunately have the seating controls on this truck disabled for the show. I think it's all the way in, you know, the rear position, all the way pulled back, but I can't be too sure. But yeah, definitely a little bit tighter in the Tacoma over here. I mean, it's not just my knees, even my feet touch the bottom of the seat over here. But again, this is an artifact of having a mid-sized truck versus a mid-sized SUV. I will say though, you sit higher up than you do in the second row of the 4Runner, and that's because the hybrid battery actually sits here underneath the second row seats. There's no underseat storage here in the 4Runner like the Tacoma has, but that's because the 4Runner can do this. You see the rear seats tumble down to expose more storage in the third row, or I guess where there would be a third row back here. Now let's talk about storage. You can see that there's two seat back pockets back here for, you know, little storage of, I like to store my reusable grocery bags and towels for my dog and stuff like that in the back seats. So two here in the 4Runner.
But inside the Tacoma,
interestingly enough, no seat back pocket here, but a seat back pocket here.
now back inside the 4Runner,
there's actually cup holders embedded in the doors over here. Now, I don't know if that's because normally there are cup holders back here, but this middle section does flip down to expose two more. But yeah, on both doors, cup holders, 2400 watt AC outlet. That's an artifact of this thing being a hybrid. I actually really like this AC outlet feature. I installed one in my 3rd gen Tacoma, actually, making use of the stock inverter because I'm on the road a lot and I like to charge my laptop and everything. So having an outlet back here is really nice, especially one that supplies 2400 watts. But something I don't have in my Tacoma are these two USB-C ports
and also these AC vents.
So being a passenger in the Tacoma is a little bit of a different experience than being one in the 4Runner. You'll see that there are two cup holders here. There are no cup holders on the door like you see in the 4Runner, maybe because this door is a little bit smaller, at least that's the way it looks in person. But there are cup holders down here and extra storage space down here as well. No flip down cup holders here either. You can also find a bit of storage behind two seats over here, but on this side is where you're going to find the sub. To be honest, being a mid-sized truck, you know, there's not a lot of places to put the JBL sub, hybrid battery. So I can see why space is a little bit compromised, at least for your passengers. But being a truck, you get this. The 4Runner doesn't have this, of course.
But I still want to show you guys the 3rd row of the 4Runner.
All right, so back here, 3rd row of the 4Runner. This is something we obviously don't have in the Tacoma because it's a truck. Yeah. But let's look inside. Let's see what's inside. Go ahead.
Automatic tailgate.
This is true. All right, so I folded down the seats back here, the 2nd row seating, so you can see that the space is pretty maximized. But we're looking at the features in the 3rd row. So what are some of the things we got?
Yeah, so this is an iForce Max, so it is a hybrid. So part of that means the batteries are here. So the battery system is actually in the center of this, so it is a little raised up. But to help maximize that space, we actually have a little bit of storage built in. So that's cool. And then so the middle is actually where the hybrid battery is. And then once again, another nice sized pocket up here.
Sure.
That'll fit quite a bit of stuff actually. It's pretty deep.
Yeah, and in the Tacoma, the hybrid batteries where the second row seating is underneath those seats.
Yeah,
so it's moved a little back here in the 4Runner.
Yeah, because it's a truck. We don't have the luxury of having, this area, so it is under the back seat. But under here, we did try to maximize storage because we know everyone wants to have all their necessities when they're overlanding.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Now, because this vehicle is a Trailhunter, is we've got some special accessories like an air compressor in the back.
Yeah, so we actually have the air compressor in the back right here. So be able to turn it on, set your PSI. Open there, and then also part of that, we have 2 USB-Cs, a 12-volt plug, and then part of that is the compressor kit.
So this comes with the vehicle.
Yeah, correct. It has like kind of little molly straps that everyone's sort of used to.
That's nice for all the molly panels kind of around the vehicle too.
Yeah, so nice long hose, plugs in right there. It'll reach all the tires. And you can air up or down tires with this. So you set the PSI. So say you want to go down to 15, 16, set it there, hook it up to the tire, it'll air it down. And when you're ready to air back up, say you want to go back to 34, plug it into the tire, and it'll stop when it hits 34.
Pretty cool. And something back here you might notice too, even though we don't have the third row like I mentioned, is cup holders. But that's because some trims in the 4Runner do come with the third row option.
Yeah, we won't see that in the TRD Pro or the Trailhunter. But we do have cool features like, these little cubby storage. There's other storage up here as well with like little kind of molly straps. You could stick this here, put it there. Tons of places you can put it. Also over here, we have the start battery because this is a hybrid. It is in the rear.
And one thing I'm noticing here is obviously we have the rear quarter panel windows on the 4Runner. That's a pretty unique 4Runner feature.
Yeah.
But from the inside, it doesn't look like they're as continuous as they are from the outside.
Yeah, so there's some structure in here that needs to continue just for safety and rollover protection. This is more of the look to throw back to the second gen 4Runners.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what the aftermarket community is going to do with these hooks over here. You can get some overhead racks. I think that will be pretty cool.
Another cool thing about this, we do have the AC 120 volt, 240 watt, 2400 watt inverter back here. And there's also actually one up in the back of the center console. So you have 2 in the 4Runner, which is really cool. So 2400 watts, power your fridge, power induction cookers, blender, make drinks on the trail, whatever you need to do. No alcohol when you're driving, but.
Yeah, and is this 2400 watts at all times, even when you're driving?
Correct, yeah.
Very cool.
The car does need to be on, but it will cycle between the engine running and the engine off, depending on how the battery, hybrid battery charge level is.
Okay, so obviously my personal answer to which one is better is not a one size fits all because, one's a Tacoma and one's a 4Runner for a reason. But I will say if you are a driver, sitting in both of these vehicles or, a front seat passenger for that matter, is very, very similar. It's going to be a very similar experience. But if you're a second row passenger, I think the answer as to which is more optimal is pretty obvious. But again, this is a very, very unfair comparison because there's just naturally more space on the interior of the 4Runner because it's an SUV. That being said though, all the little things I saw in the 4Runner, like those cup holders inside the door, air vents so that you're getting extra airflow to the back, obviously legroom as well, although this is something that, the size of the Tacoma can't really control, which is why I don't want to fault it too much for that, is much, much better in the 4Runner. But there isn't anything like extremely different that would make me say no to a Tacoma if I needed a truck or no to the 4Runner if I needed a 4Runner, at least on the interior. I think they're both very comparable. It's just kind of nice that in these new generation of vehicles, there's resemblance between the Tacoma and 4Runner because they are very similar vehicles, Now they're on the same platform, they've got the same engine configurations, they share many of the same grades as well. So yeah, they look more united and more part of a family, so to speak. My take overall is both interiors are really, really nice, definitely a step up from the previous generation. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video of comparing the interiors of Toyota's 2 newest trucks and SUVs. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to connect more with me, you can follow me on my Instagram. It is at ChloeKuoTaco. I post more in real time on there. In fact, I was posting stories and everything while I was here at Overland Expo. So if you're following me here, you're going to get to see updates in real time. Other than that, I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.